Well, it's a beautiful Wednesday morning, and so I'm getting started on a real job. How about that? We have here the 175 watt panel that we've had fitted but not wired up, and we want to fit 4 of these, so there'll be 1, 2 on the port side and 1, 2 on the starboard side, all with these wooden arms are going with the carbon fibre rail going through them. So my first task is to create 369 more of these arms for the other panels. I've got some lengths of that cheap CLS timber from B&Q, which has worked well so far, and I think I've got, 3, 6, 7 of them so far. Dropping all the washing up around as well. Got 7 so far, which was using up the scrap lengths of that timber that I already had. We'll need to go and get a bit more to finish the job. I've also, as you can see, we've sort of tapered them, so most of it's thinned down, just wider where the hole goes through, and I've got to get some more bolts of the perfect length really to bolt them on. Once I've shaped these, I can sort that out. The aft panels, those rails are slightly narrower diameter because the length, the span is shorter. When I do the aft ones, I need to drill a slightly smaller hole for them, but it's going to be a long process. There's shaping them, and then we want to coat them with epoxy and paint them before we actually fit them to the solar panels. Meanwhile, there's the Menai Straits looking beautiful. If you haven't seen how we've built our carbon fibre rails in a long time, just a little reminder, we've got carbon fibre stanchions which are permanently epoxied to thinner tubes coming out of the deck. Those thin tubes are supported by these FR4 shapes bedded onto the deck and a thinner one underneath the deck. So you've got a tube that's 250mm long going from there down through the deck, fully sealed in. These then epoxied onto them, filled with thickened epoxy, and then we made little FR4 supports which we have epoxied and fiberglassed onto the uprights. For these bars at the forward end, we've got a socket, and at the aft end we have a little cup. The rail drops into the cup. When we finally secure them, as you can see with the one aft here, we have a lanyard holding the rail down into the cup so that it can't come out, but they are not easy to get out. For general use it's fine. I'll put the camera down now because I need both hands to lift this out with the solar panel on it, and I'm working today. I'm going to go forward when it's not too windy. I much prefer having the workmate up on the foredeck. It saves carrying tools all up and down the ladder all day long, and it means I'm closer to my cup of coffee, which makes life better. Alrighty, I've got the solar panel resting on a cloth on the workmate, and immediately a couple of things just to note. We didn't have the perfect bolt length, so when we were fitting this, we ended up with a whole stack of washers there in order, I don't know if I can get the camera under there, to not have the bolt too long and hit the panel, and it is still a bit too long. That's one of the reasons I want to get proper custom bolt lengths from ACU. The other thing to notice is, I don't know whether I didn't do it up properly, that seems unlikely, but it is a nylock nut. That one is loose. All the others are tight. and so come to take that one off so I can use it as a template for the new ones I'm going to make. And that's a good time to point out, look, I have a sorted set of spanners. I only have one of each size, one with a ring spanner at each end, and then one set with open-ended spanners. What I don't haven't managed to find where in the move my socket set is. I'm going to take this middle one off, especially as it's already loose there, and use this as my template for making the 9 extra ones that we need. Hello, it's Friday 8th of August and I'm back at working on our solar panel side supports. Let me show you. I got to the point on not yesterday, day before, so that was Wednesday, where I'd cut these to shape with the jigsaw, and you can't be that accurate. I can't be that accurate with jigsaw, so they're not quite all the same thickness. Nobody will ever notice because they're all at least half a metre, a bit more apart. But what I thought I'd do is use the belt sander to just even those out a little bit in terms of thickness. And the belt sander was in our storage container, as was the hole saw that I'll need to put here for the guardrail to pass through. So I'm setting up to do that belt sanding now. The forecast for now is about 30 miles an hour wind in the gusts. In Beaumaris, it always blows whatever the gust says, and we get occasional lulls from it. So rather than try to do any sanding on deck in this wind where it just howls around you, I've come in the shelter behind the boat. Right, I've got a belt sander over there with the other stuff we brought from storage, and let's get on with this so that then we can start coating them in epoxy. Aha! I remembered that I've got one longer Irwin quick grip clamp, so I've clamped them all together and I can do all 9 at once. That'll be a lot easier. Here's cheap and cheerful Balka belt sander. Let's see how well that does. Okay, well, the belt sander's really ripped through that. That's really quite smooth across there now. Plenty good enough for what we need for these individual supports, one each end and one in the middle of each of the solar panels. Now that's done, I'll get the router, trim router, and start rounding off the edges, I guess. Well, I've been getting frustrated with my hole saw. It's quite battered, as you can see. And last time or time before I used it, this ring here, which locks that bit which controls the pins, has got jammed. And you can see by how battered it is, I've been trying various clamps and mole grips to grip that and spanners to grip that to undo it, and I can't. That means that instead of the pins there going through these holes or into these grooves on the smaller ones, it's just going to sort of rest on it. It's definitely not ideal, and at some point I'm going to have to get a better hole saw set. I've been through several. This was the best I've had. Can't remember what brand it is, it doesn't say. Got this from Screwfix or Tool Station. Need to get another at some point. Anyway, the drill bit is broken as well, so I put a new drill bit in, and I want to do a 32mm hole on 3 of these, which is to match one that I've got already, and then a bit smaller diameter for this. I think I'm going to try with the 25mm, but I suspect it really should be 26. What I'm going to do is, with the 3, is drill one, clamp it on top of the next to set it as a guide so that the alignment is reasonably good, and then again you do it for the 3rd. Okay, let's get hole sawing. In between the distractions of the RNLI having to help somebody get to their mooring after they were launched into these 30-mile-an-hour winds, I have actually drilled one hole just to show you how I'm doing the alignment. Dead easy now to put the hole saw in the first hole when the 2 pieces would have clamped together, and that will ensure that these 3 end up with perfect alignment. For the first one, where I didn't want to damage the paint on the inside of here, I just had the drill bit loose, put the hole saw in, oops, clumsy, put the hole saw into there and knocked the drill bit down so I could see a mark on here where I was going to do the hole sawing. That's worked neatly, and the hole there is just right for this tube to go through nice and easily. So there's some room for paint, and in fact by the time I've routed around here, dropping everything as I have there, that will tend to ease up the hole a little bit as well. Okay, 2 more of that size to do, and then switch to this next size down for the remaining 6, which will be the aft panels. Time for a little update. Those 3 holes for there'll be actually the port solar panel, forward solar panel, are done. I've got the holes marked in each of these 6 for the aft ones, so I know they're in the right place. Switched to the smaller hole saw, which uses the smaller what are they called, an arbor, I think they're called. So that's fine, that one's not broken at all. Get these 6 more holes done, and then I can start the routing. Okay, that's all the routing done. Come out pretty good. The ones for the aft solar, which go on these slightly narrower diameter tubes, I'm just having to free the hole a little bit with this rasp so that they slide on freely. Doing that and giving them a sand. I think we've probably all seen quite a lot of sanding, but I'll just get on and do that. There we go, 9 solar panel supports, all drilled, sanded, routed, everything else. They fit on the guardrail poles fine. Next job is to acetone them and cover them in epoxy. And given that it's 3:30, I don't know whether we'll get around to that today or not. Hi, it's Sunday 17th of August, an absolutely beautiful day. Jane's been doing the washing, final rinsing, I think now. It's our enormous spin dryer, but it's big enough to take our double sheet or duvet. Our little washing machine works pretty well. While Jane's been doing that, I've been fitting our side solar panels with the arms that she's been making. So that one's fitted, that one's fitted, that one's fitted, and I'm just about to start doing the last one. So I thought I'd show you what the process involves. Oh, I've got my arms, solar power arms down here. Right. We've decided to use 3 arms just for a little bit extra rigidity, and so we're using the mounting holes at each end. The middle ones, which are there for an earth, we will put an earth in, but not there, are a bit smaller, so I need to drill that out to 7mm to easily fit my 6mm bolts through. The arms are great, except that I didn't really make the holes quite big enough, and now by the time they've been painted the carbon fibre tube won't fit through, so I'll need to use the rasp, just clear those so that the tube will fit through, and they will go on across like that. So I've got to drill both ends of the wood. I've got the right length bolts for the tall end, but on this last one I'm out of the 50mm ones for the short end, so I'm just going to go down and shorten these 3 bolts, because otherwise they would go through and dig into the panel itself. We use a little medium-sized penny washer on top, and underneath the frame we use a nylon washer and then a normal metal washer, so that the nut doesn't cut into the nylon and the nylon acts as proper insulation. Okay, I'm down below where I've got the grinder. Don't want any metal shavings on the deck. I've put the nuts as far as they will go on these bolts, so I can cut the end off, and then the nut will make sure the thread works okay. At this point I'm using this old clamp, which I think my dad inherited from my grandpa. Yeah, so it's from Warsaw, where my mum's father's building firm was back in the day. My dad must have had this since before I was born. But these are the most powerful clamps I've ever seen. The way that this lever works really grips things tight, and that groove just there is brilliant for holding these bolts. But I can only do that with 2 hands. There we are, bolt held really snugly, very easily, and ready to cut with the grinder. And then I've got this oxide type sandpaper, which will just smooth over the end so that the nut goes on and off easily. I'll just cut that now. Okay, that nut's coming on and off nice and easily. 1 done, 2 more to go. Won't show you the whole process 3 times. Let's just get them done. Yeah. I'm claiming that dirty water is from Jane's clothes, not from mine. Right. Okay, those 3 are now fitting nicely onto the tube. So the next job is to drill out these 2 central holes to be 7mm. I'll put the little scrap piece of ply underneath there to make sure that I don't destroy the solar panel. Wouldn't be a good idea. Okay, I've got 2 holes the right size now. Next job is to put the first arm in place. I need to mark and drill the wood, can bolt onto there, get the bolts through but no nuts on, thread it and get them all in and lined up before I try putting any nuts on. Let's just use the pencil and mark those 2 points. One of the reasons I'm using a 7mm drill bit for a 6mm bolt is that just putting the pencil marks there by eye is proving perfectly adequate. I can just see that mark and put 1 there and 1 there. Get my scrap ply again. I'm not going to try and do that one-handed. I have swapped to a wood drill. I will put this down and drill 2 holes. Okay, let's get bolts lined up. That one's in. Short one. With these, because of the non-threaded bit length, I'm actually putting an extra washer on top. Otherwise I found that I was running out of thread. There we go. That's that one in and that one in. In fact, I will just put the washers and nuts on just so I don't knock it out of place again. I'm using, as I said, nylon washers first, then a metal washer, and then the nylock nut. and that way I should reduce the galvanic corrosion. But this is a bit tricky with the size of my fingers, so I'll just turn the camera off a sec. Okay, first panel bolted on very loosely so I can spray the lithium grease in a moment. One tip I find useful is I use these fine nose pliers to hold the nut, because I can't get my fingers underneath everything neatly and hold the washers and get the nut on. Gripping the nut with these just gives me much more space to work with. Now I've got that first one in, and by the way, notice I'm keeping it on a towel on top of the workmate so I don't scratch the panel. I'm going to put the carbon fibre tube through that next, because I found that otherwise I can't get the alignment and it all jams up. I want to put that in there. Yes, that's running through quite nicely. The paint isn't very even, and I want to actually have this panel at the aft end. That's the aft end. I'm moving the tube so we just have a tiny bit to drop into the stanchion at the aft end, longer length at the fore end. Now that's in place, I can put the other support arms on and mark them with pencil and get them drilled. Okay, you can see why I keep putting the camera down. I'm hopeless at pointing it while trying to do jobs. Let's get the other one on and get ready to drill. Alrighty, tubes threaded on, these two are just sitting there, and now I can just see the hole there and there, so I'm going to do the pencil marks, drill and very loosely bolt this one before I do that. Actually, I'll do that one first because of the longer length there. That one's trickier. Do that one first, get it held loosely in place, and that will mean that the alignment's more likely to be correct for this one. Okay, thanks to help from the person in the family with tinsy wincy thin little fingers, we've got the nuts and the washers all on, bars in the right place, and as you can see, this one rotates quite nicely. Let's just get them tight. Very handy having the ratchet on there. It just makes life so much easier, but there's only ever a 50% chance of you putting it on the right way up. Why they don't mark it very, very, very clearly. It may be that there is a oh, now at this point Dave just remembers I forgot to put the lithium in, so let's just undo that one again. The whole point of doing it and having them all loose is I can just pick that up. I'd much rather have the thick paste lithium, but they didn't have that in the chandlery here, so we use what we can. We'll put this bit on super fast because it's not very exciting. You could watch the Ferris wheel going round at Beaumaris instead. Not sure the camera will pick it up actually. But you won't pick Jane up on the microphone. She hasn't got a microphone. But she said it's a long way away, we wouldn't pick it up. For exciting B-roll, you need more than a GoPro. I'm just saying that now as a little subtle commentary to the person behind the camera. We didn't have many days as nice as this last year, did we? It's what, 5:30 now?
It's lovely.
It's absolutely gorgeous. Ooh, sorry, going to cut the camera woman in half. Okay, as they say on all those recovery channels, that ain't going anywhere. Now just to take it somewhere and put it in. This panel, last one, is now in place onto the guardrail, and you can see how we can hinge it up to be able to catch the sun better. We do still have a debate raging in my mind about how we're going to do the tilting. There's a lack of places here to fix it to. I'm pretty sure we now want a rigid bar, but I don't know where to fasten it at deck level. But other than the lack of a way to hold it up, that is pretty good. James just saying string method isn't my preferred one because of shading. Yeah, we could just put little halyards, very lightweight halyards, but you will definitely get some shading if you do that, and it won't be as rigid. I want to be able to kind of lock it in place for when we hit waves. Anyway, that's done, and you'll have seen where I was working on the foredeck. If I just grab the camera from the boss, we've set up a temporary solar farm. It's not yet connected, and mostly at the minute it's acting as a shed to store our timber underneath it. But here we've got 215, 215 and 2 lots of 100. These are 2 of the 4 that will eventually stick out beyond the stern and beyond the back of the boat, and be able to be folded in and brought in completely in bad weather or in tight harbours. They are really significant in terms of the overall amount of solar we'll be able to get, because on the sides we've got 4 times 175 watts. On the back we will have 4 times 215 watts plus 2 times 100, plus on the wheelhouse 4 times 40. And beyond all of that, we've got some of those through a Kickstarter with Levante. They were advertised or working through with Uma, Sailing Uma. So we've got 550 watts of carbon fibre panels that we will be able to move around. I think we're, if I did my maths right, we're just over 2,400 watts once we've got all of that, which we need because we're all electric, apart from an English winter when we have a diesel stove, a reflex diesel stove for heating and being able to cook. Right, that'll do for today's solar panels. Thanks for watching. Bye.